The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Okay, well, welcome to the 2018 Allen County GOP Bean Dinner. Tonight's featured speaker is Lindsey Graham. I'm Tim Smith, a candidate for mayor next year. This has been an exciting night. Lindsey Graham was talking a lot about his vote for Justice Kavanaugh, President Trump's nominee. So my name's Tim Smith. I'm a candidate for mayor next year in Fort Wayne. I was born in Fort Wayne, grew up in New Haven, went to New Haven High School and Purdue Fort Wayne, graduated in political science. While at Purdue Fort Wayne, I was fortunate enough to do an internship in the Bush Quayle White House in 1989, also worked for Senator Coates that summer. Came back, worked on a congressional campaign, managed the re-election campaign of Paul Helmke in 1991, and then went on to law school down in Indianapolis from 91 to 94. Came back, started working for MedPro, where I've been for 25 years. Excited to be running for mayor of Fort Wayne, believing that when Fort Wayne is the safest city in the Midwest, the smartest city in the Midwest, and the strongest city in the Midwest, we will be a magnet in the middle of the Midwest for jobs, people, and nonprofits. We have a strong GOP in Allen County. Senator Lindsey Graham proved to us tonight that GOP values, conservative GOP values, matter in Washington, D.C., and they matter in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Good enough?
It's that effort and the effort of everyone in this room to get the vote out, to ensure that every one of your friends and family and neighbors gets out and vote. That's why the president is coming. We need to give President Trump the partner he needs in Mike Braun, and we need to send Democrat Joe Donnelly a one-way ticket back to South Bend. Thank you guys all for having me. Thank you again, Steve.
Thank you, Chairman Hupfer. Good to have you here tonight. And yes, we are looking forward to the visit by President Trump on Monday. A couple of folks that I'd like to say thank you to. First of all, I can't say thank you enough to one of the members of the Shine and Harden law firm, which is Dan Kensinger. Dan, where are you? And Gwendra Turney. Both of those two individuals did so much. Would you stand up, both of you, Dan Kensinger and Gwendra Turney? Thank you so much for all the hard work that you have done. I really appreciate that. Also want to thank some of our hard-working volunteers, including Ron Williams, who's the operation managers of our Republican headquarters, Dave Armstrong, who also helps Ron, Bill Brown, who is with Ron down at headquarters, and Sue Richards, who helps man all of the polling places, responsible for getting over 300 people to work at our polling places on Election Day. Let's thank all of them. And I did say Bill Bean, and I do want to thank Bill Bean. This is his hotel and his venue. Thank you so much, Bill Bean, for a lovely event tonight. The place to have all events in Fort Wayne is the Ramada. We appreciate that. And before I ask Pat Miller to come up and introduce Congressman Jim Banks and Mike Braun and U.S. Senator Todd Young, I would also like to point out one other person, two other people actually. First of all, the brother of a good friend of all of us who is running for Congress. You may have heard of his brother. Is it Mike is your brother's first name? Yeah. Mike Pence is this gentleman's brother's first name, but more importantly, we have the Pences from Columbus, Indiana here. Greg Pence and his lovely wife, Denise Pence. Would you two please stand? How How about another Pence in Congress? Our 6th district, Greg Pence. And boy, Greg Pence is going to make a good partner with Jim Banks, two people who have served our country well in the military. Greg serving when we had the fiasco in Lebanon in 1982 when he was just outside of the U.S. Embassy when it was bombed and hundreds of people were killed. And of course, Greg showed his mettle there by helping others escape from that. And of course, Jim Banks serving in Afghanistan. And one more person here, and I don't see where is Tony is right here. How many of you people drive down to Indianapolis regularly down I-69 and happen to listen to WIBC? How about WIBC listeners? We have the #1 host of the morning show on Indianapolis radio, talk show conservative, Tony Katz. Would you please stand? The #1 radio station in Indianapolis. Thank you, Tony. Take a listen to it. It is the #1 show in Indianapolis, and he's a good friend of Jim Banks, and that's why he's here. And now let's talk about #1 in Fort Wayne, our good friend who has helped preach the Republican conservative gospel on WOWO 5 days a week, Monday through Friday from 3 until 6 on the Pat Miller Show. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, the conservative voice of Allen County, Pat Miller.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, now you know what we do here. We've got Banks, Braun, and Young.
Yeah, and I'm going to stay up here. So good evening. A very sweet lady stopped me back there a while ago. I think it was Victoria, and she says, I listen to every minute of every show you do. And so the next person that was coming in behind her was Judge Wendy Davis, and I asked Wednesday, I said, so did you make this woman listen to me? Has she done something wrong? And you sentenced her to that, so I didn't know what was going on. Can I do this? This is totally self-serving, okay? And many of you, and thank you very much, have said something to me this evening about all that we've gone through at WOWO lately in the loss of our great friend Charlie Butcher. And I will tell you that we are beyond excited for what I think God is doing for us at WOWO. And would you please do me a favor and welcome, you know her, she is now officially our new host. Please stand, Kayla Blakesley. Would you stand, Kayla? She's still right now the program director, so I kind of had to do that. And I know other people have said things. I will not be introducing him later this evening. So since this is the only time in my life that I will have Lindsey Graham sitting in front of me, allow me to just say, I have found in myself some renewed hope. I have found in myself, because I believe now, unlike the one who was given the title before, I believe, fellow Republicans, right now, we have a new conservative, constitutional, unabashed lion of the Senate, and his name is Lindsey Graham. He wasn't following a script, but man, I've got to tell you, that one day there in the committee meeting, when he opened up and let it go, I found myself loosening my own tie because I wasn't sure I was ready for everything that was coming out. Hey, you know what? We're going to send you a partner, okay? We're going to send Mike Braun, and you two guys together will rip it up. We're looking forward to it. It's my great honor now to introduce Jim Banks. Jim has served us well in the State House down in Indianapolis, and he had come into a seat where we'd been a little spoiled. If you go through the lineage of the 3rd District seat, we've had some pretty good representation. And he was taking the shoes of a pretty good guy who had just left that seat. We needed another solid, conservative representation for the 3rd. Thankfully, none of that has been surrendered. He continues in caring about our farmers, about our businesses, about our children, and yes, in his own unique way, thank God, he takes a great stand for our military. From Indiana's 3rd, ladies and gentlemen, I tell you tonight, the fight continues. Please welcome Jim Banks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now you're embarrassing me. My friends, isn't it great to see Marlin Stutzman in the house? Let's give him another warm welcome. Talk about tough shoes to fill. Marlin was a great conservative in the House for 6 years. Marlin texted me the other day and he said, wow, what a difference his 6 years was from my 2 years when he served with President Barack Obama. And I'm not bragging, Marlin, but I get to serve with a pretty great president and Donald Trump, right? You already met my future colleague, Greg Pence. The vice president looks a little bit like him. Did I get that right? Not the other way around. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you agree, because I believe it, and I believe it more every single day. This president picked a great man to be his vice president, who's going to go down in history as the greatest vice president in American history. Can you let him know that Allen County agrees? Thank you. Look, Tuesday is a big day. Before Tuesday comes Monday, and Monday is going to be a big day for Northeast Indiana when we welcome President Donald Trump. And I hope all of you are going to be there. Are you going to be there? It is the honor of my life to serve in this Congress with this president and work on the issues that we've worked on over the past couple of years. Now, all of you know the good news. The tax cuts and regulatory rollback have led to the greatest era of economic growth in my lifetime. Unemployment is the lowest that it's been in 49 years. 4.2 GDP growth last quarter, 3.5% this quarter is the best back-to-back quarter that we've seen in 4 years. We have, for the first time in American history, more unfilled jobs in this economy than we have unemployed Americans. And I give President Trump and this Congress a lot of credit for that. But I don't think it's the most important thing that this president has accomplished. What this president has done in partnership with this Congress to begin the rebuilding of the American military is his greatest achievement. You see, when President Obama was president, he cut spending for this military by 20%. And what has led the readiness crisis that has resulted for that has been diminishing of our military, has held our troops back from going out and doing what they need to do. All of you know the startling statistics. Almost twice as many American troops killed in training accidents than we saw killed in combat in Iraq or in Afghanistan. Enough is enough, and with this president, we've closed the gap. We've restored full funding for our military, making a down payment on getting our military back on track to where it needs to be. I'm very proud of that. But Tuesday is about whether or not we continue moving down the right track or whether or not we put Nancy Pelosi back in charge of the House of Representatives. And I know what you feel, how you feel about that. But we've got to get out and work our tails off for the next 5 days to make sure that every Republican in Northeast Indiana gets out to vote. And we need your help to do that. We have a Allen County Republican Party headquarters, the Banks campaign, the Victory Center. We have a lot of work for you to do. And in 5 days, we can make a big difference to turn out the vote. Now, I believe that Mike Braun, the difference between Senator Mike Braun and Senator Joe Donnelly is Northeast Indiana. We are the Republican base of the state. And if we do our job, we're going to turn out the vote, Mike, and make you the next United States Senator right here in Northeast Indiana. Thank you. God bless. It's an honor to serve. I appreciate your friendship and your support.
Thank you, sir. You're a good man. I don't care what they say. Thanks, Jim, and thanks for introducing Marlin. I wasn't sure where he was. Great man. Still owes me a peach pie, though, as I'm looking through my list here from his mother. Because a month ago, I was down at a restaurant down near Indianapolis, and I had peach pie. Nothing like Mom's, okay? It just made me want it more. And you owe me. All right. In quiet, who am I going to introduce here? In quiet Jasper, Indiana. A successful businessman who has served his community and served them at our State House in true Donald Trump fashion, looks around his business and says, we've done things right here and it works. Doesn't it make more sense to not just go to Washington, D.C., like Donald Trump did, and take business savvy to the swamp and to make changes happen there? But because we have a president that we do, it just makes more sense to have another senator there in the wings who supports this president and supports that business model. Doesn't that make sense to you? That we get rid of what we have and put what we really want? Or maybe this makes more sense. To have a senator who says he represents Hoosiers, but yet he voted against tax reforms and he'd like to repeal them. Is that what we want? Does it make sense to have a senator who's against more take-home pay? Is that what we want? Or a senator who's against less government intrusion, wants more of it, and he wants it in health care, and he wants government intrusion in business? Is that what we want? He's against the perfect candidate for the Supreme Court and goes around and brags the fact that he voted for Justice Gorsuch, but yet, even when the vote was covered and Manchin could come out and say, that's it. When Susan Collins announced, I've decided I'm going to go ahead and give my vote to Judge Kavanaugh, and the representative in the Senate from Indiana could still not do it. He might say in his ads that I watch every night, he's representing Hoosier values. Ladies and gentlemen, he is not representing this Hoosier's values. Not this guy. And that's why I am so very glad that this is the last time I will introduce Mike Braun as a candidate for the U.S. Senate. The next time I introduce him, I'm going to introduce him as our newly elected senator from the state of Indiana, Mike Braun. God bless you.
Thank you for the rousing introduction. When you do what I've took on back many months ago, almost 15 months ago, I'll never forget the most common thing I heard back from my hometown, quite Jasper, I think it was referred to as, it's a dynamo of a community. You haven't been there, visit it, and you'd find out what it's about. Right back there, okay. You know, do you need to have your head examined? Maybe. I do it again, by the way, and if you didn't have thick skin coming into this, you definitely developed it. The reason I did it goes back to several things. Number one, wife and I grew up there, went to grade school together, high school together, had a big decision to make. We lived out in Boston for 2 years. We wanted to raise a family, and until you're away and you can see the difference, you don't really appreciate, where you've come from. I'll never forget, I didn't even interview for a job. Was a finance major out there, could have written the ticket on Wall Street. Many of my cohorts ended up in the pokey back then, so, I'm glad that I didn't do that. We moved back because we wanted to have our own business, but mostly to raise a family. 4 kids later, 3 of them work in my own business. And my wife, who's subbing for me in Sullivan County tonight at a Lincoln Day dinner because she got so upset with the negative advertising and what you put yourself through as a family, she is out there working hard to get me elected. And you shouldn't have teed her off. I know better than that. So, the journey from Jasper to Boston and back, it's the American dream. She's had her only job for 40 years with their own home accessory and gift store in our downtown. I started, the guy hired me to run the kitchen cabinet company, said, Mike, hometown boy, like your education, you'll run the place someday. Stick around 15 to 20 years. Didn't have the patience. Wanted to do my own thing. 17 years in a little business that my dad had a half ownership in seemed like a long time to really get your feet grounded and to go somewhere. Well, patience, persistence, hard work, it's the essence of what makes this country great. So, after 17 years with still 15 employees, I knew I had a tiger by the tail. Still a location, my office was in a trailer on a rock lot for all that time. I didn't think things were really panning out. But from 98 to 2008, we grew from 15 employees to 300. I'm selling auto and truck accessories. None of it is really needed. It's the stuff you put on after you buy it. All my assets are in commercial real estate. And after 27 years, you run into the auto and commercial real estate crisis. Made me wonder again, was it worth it? Was it the right thing to do? You live within your means, you work hard, you're opportunistic, it pays off. The darkest moment in recent economic times created the greatest opportunity for me after 27 years. We had 300 employees, most of them in Jasper. Thought it could all disappear, could go down the drain. We ended up growing from 300 to 900. 3 of my 4 kids came into the business. That's what this is all about. That's the American dream. I did it for my family and my employees, and I wanted to give back. So when I got to the state legislature, had been on a school board for 10 years, and believe me, you'll know if you've got the temperament to do this. Yeah, you're going to get an earful of something being on the school board. So I'll never forget, Representative Messmer called me and said, Mike, I'm going to run for state senate. He was the first legislator elected as a Republican from Dubois County, which was one of the bluest counties in the state, even though it's culturally and fiscally the most conservative one. That's why we got the supermajorities in the Senate and the House. He said, Mike, would you be willing to run? I really didn't think I wanted to, but I said, yeah, I'm going to give it a whirl. Brother Steve was there for 2 years. What a place to get a tutorial to do this, because it's an effective state government that lives within its means, tackles tough issues like infrastructure, and was proud to be a part of it. Was not going to run for a 3rd term, was going to skedaddle back to southern Indiana. That's where my life was. Saw an opportunity when I watched, like all of you did, 2016, the presidential race. And if that wasn't more drama packed into a year, I don't know what you could ask for if you love politics. I'll never forget the night. I went to bed at 2:15. It wasn't determined till about 20 till 3. I only need 5 to 6 hours of sleep, and that's what's given me a lot of energy to do this. Turned the TV off, went to bed, got up a little before 6. Turned the TV on. President-elect Trump. You know how it's crazy when you're so happy, you're jumping up and down, making noise, and there's nobody there to hear you. I went upstairs, got Maureen out of bed, and said, dear, something great has happened. Then I said, look what he did. Look at the new possibility. I want to go there to weigh in on health care, which I did in my own business. It was mentioned earlier. Did create a plan that's sustainable, not had a premium increase in 10 years for an individual, $70 a month. Donald and the others forget to mention that on the Unaffordable Care Act, that thing would be 5 to 6 times as expensive. When it comes to tax reform, we need to be proud of that. I want to tell you a quick story on what happened in my own business. My sons in January said, Dad, we're going to have more jingle in our pocket. Let's share it with our employees. What do you have in mind? Let's increase 401k benefits. Let's lower family plans by $1,400. I said, wow. Put the pen to it. Yeah, we did. He said, the other thing I'd like to do is put in the company memo due to President Trump's tax reform. And I said, wow. You know, I knew being in the State House, you don't mix those kinds of things often. I said, check with your brother. I knew what he was going to say. Don't just be altruistic. Give the benefits. He said, Dad, you were right. You're the CEO. What do you want to do? I knew what I was going to say. I said, put it in the company memo. We need to be proud of it. And since then, they've granted 2 mid-year bonuses. That's what's happening in the real world. Tax reform was a mistake when Democrats went against it. We need to show how it's going to benefit employees and people in the middle, and then we're going to get President Trump reelected in 2020. You're going to get more people like me that get out of the comfort zone in 2022 and 2024. We may have what it's going to take to make this a revolution that goes beyond just a small opportunity. If we don't get it right, we're going to be out on the street for a long time, because the other side of the ledger has demographics on its side, and they got that easy discussion of more government. So I think I'm doing it for the right reason. I can't wait to be a reinforcement for an agenda that's working. And my opponent, on the other hand, uses the main reason that he should be in business is because he's the hired help. I think you've got to have a little bit higher standard than that. And when you're tabbed the least effective Democratic senator, you probably ought to be the retired help. And since you vote with Chuck Schumer 100% of the time, let's make him the fired help. Thank you very much. You bet.
Hey, good luck, Susan. Okay, you're going to be the next senator. Tony, I don't know if this happens to you when you go out and you speak at places, but people text you sometimes while you're up there. Somebody texted me, they said, do you think we should have term limits in the Senate? And I said, answer back, he said, Bill. Who's Bill? Okay, I said, sure. And he says, how many? I said, well, it depends. He says, on what? I said, well, if your name's Donnelly, I think it's 1 term. Should have had that one. That's just me. Well, listen, we're going to do some changes. The next time I introduce him as the new senator from the state of Indiana. We have our junior senator here, and the next time I introduce you, Todd Young, because he's coming to introduce our special guest, I will be able to introduce him as the senior senator from the state of Indiana, Todd Young.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
A fantastic evening, and before we adjourn, again, our best wishes to Senator-to-be Mike Braun, Congressman Jim Banks. I would like to thank our sponsors for tonight's program, Glenbrook Automotive Group and Mercedes of Fort Wayne. Thank you so much. Keith Byers and Automotive Color and Supply Corp. Thank you so much, Keith, for helping us tonight. And John Crawford for mayor. Thank you very much, John Crawford. And thank you very much. Don't forget to vote Republican on Tuesday or any day before then. Thank you for being a part of the Allen County Republican Party. Good night, everybody.